Exercisers, thanks for stopping by the old Facebook page to check out the Today in AZ After Show. I'm Paul, that's Rachel, Vanessa, and Crystal hanging out on the couch for your entertainment.
We're fixing our hair. We get the side view, you know, and then like things are sticking out everywhere.
Crazy.
Looking good, girl.
I try not to look at myself at all on camera, unless I'm like super slouched and my belly's hanging out. Also, it's like a fat guy move when your buttons kind of pop out a little bit on a shirt that's a little too tight. That's a bad look.
Not this week, though, Paul Gerke. You're getting close
Down
to your goal
to
weight.
223.3. That's the
Slow clap. We like your efforts.
We're like 20 pounds away from like my low weight, like back.
You would be like high school weight. That's weird.
It wasn't high school. It was my first TV job, 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, I was down to 2 bills, and I blew my back out. And then I couldn't exercise for like 8 months. And I just been getting fatter ever since. So
Well, this shift doesn't help any.
No, it doesn't.
No.
It's a weird eating schedule.
Yeah, it's weird no matter what you do for a living if you have to be up at this hour, which actually is a pretty good segue into what we want to talk about today. We want to hear from you. What was your first minimum wage job? How much did you make? And did that experience like parlay itself into the career you currently have? Maybe you're still working a minimum wage job. There's no shame in that. Work is work, no matter what you're getting paid.
Honest work.
We're asking this because we're debating whether or not Arizona should raise its minimum wage again. Right now it's set to $11 an hour, but there was just a study done by the Low Income Housing Commission that indicated that you would need to work 71 hours per week making minimum wage to afford a 2-bedroom house, just an average shop spot here in Arizona. That's too much, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot. But rent prices keep going up and up and up and up and up. And it's, you know, as soon as it's a whole conversation about affordable housing, but it's, you know, as soon as they repurpose, you know, the new cool place to live, it's like the rent just skyrockets and then, you know, you're out of luck. You're really out of luck. It's terrible. And here is much better than, obviously, California and New York. So
It is, but also it's getting up there. As Phoenix grows, it's not an inexpensive place to live, at least if you want to be in like a safe, well-lit area. I know that there are cheap places to live all over the valley. I'm not discounting that, but if you want to like have some sort of at least average setup in which you have like modern amenities and like modern resources at your disposal, to live in downtown Phoenix is going to cost you minimum $1,500 a month just for a 1-bedroom apartment.
The thing, it's like, you know, fortunately, you know, when we did our whole research moving here, it's like it's your proximity to where you want to be. When you move to a new city, I want to be close to the city so I can explore the city. But in order for it to be affordable, you have to go 45 minutes, an hour out. And that happens in so many bigger cities, is that you don't get to experience the real city life, because in order for you to have a family living in a home that's reasonable and be able to, I don't know, eat dinner, you have to live way out. Which then, you know, affects your quality of life when you're driving so much.
I mean, if you're trying to buy a house by the Loop 303 right now, it's great because it's so far out.
Yeah.
And you get this big house.
Big old house, lots of square footage, but man, that drive.
That drive is far.
Yeah.
What were your first minimum wage jobs?
TV. I'm not kidding.
Right,
so my first job was $12,750 a year. And then, so I think that rivals my first job working at a grocery store. I think when you work out the hours, I think it's probably TV might have been worse.
I think it was. Mine was $17,500, my first TV job. And I've said before, I was on food stamps back then just to work that job in TV. But I think I made more as like a pizza delivery guy. I think I made about 20 as a pizza delivery
We did. We went
guy.
to our bosses, collectively, some of the reporters, and we're like, hey, we want to get a job stocking at the Walmart overnight.
Yeah.
You know, because we'd be in the back, nobody would see it. They wouldn't, hey, isn't that the TV girl? Like, clean up at all 9. But no, so we were just, you know, and they said no, because it would be an embarrassment to the station.
Well,
like, our paycheck is an embarrassment to the station. But that's why when people say, oh, TV's so glamorous and what, it's like, you have to work your really love it.
Yeah.
You have to really love it, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
What about you, Crystal?
Are you talking about first job ever? The one that well, I mean, everybody starts out like at I was Sonic, car hop and all, roller skates and all.
But I wasn't trying that.
But I wasn't trying to that wasn't like, I lived with my parents, I was 16, but I can't imagine having that job and then trying to support a family, you know what I mean?
No, I couldn't pay my car payment, my $12,750. So my parents had to help me.
You bring up an interesting point, because I think I got more in tips carrying out the Route 44s on roller skate than I did my first TV job too.
I bet you were really good at it. I bet you got good tips. Can you see she's so lovely?
Yeah,
there was a couple of cars that got washed with Route 44 soda.
Oh, look at
it. They felt so bad, they still tipped me and gave me a good tip. But no, I was really pretty, 2.5 years on that. I was pretty good on those puppies.
2.5 years?
2.5 years. Sonic car. Represent Val Vista and Williamsfield and Gilbert. It's my old stomping grounds. They probably saw my
I
skates.
bet you're in great shape too. Not that you're not now, but I mean that's a lot of roller
Totally, yeah.
skating.
You're roller skating around, yeah.
I was a dishwasher, making $5.50 an hour was my first job. I was 14, working under the table.
Nice.
My mom had a second job as like an assistant to this local lawyer in my hometown, and he also owned a restaurant. And he threw me and my buddy Mike in the back, making $5.50 an hour, a couple days a week, washing dishes, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's menial labor, but it also allowed us to have a little spending money and some money to eventually put in our gas tanks once we got our licenses and stuff. And,
Oh, yeah.
It is tough, though, Crystal. You bring up a good point about having to support a family on minimum wage. I haven't really dived into the comment section yet, but I just want to caution everybody watching this morning to have just a modicum of compassion for the people that are still working minimum wage jobs as adults. A lot of times it's not a choice that they're actively making. It is what they can do to make ends meet. And there's no shame in holding down a job, no matter what that job is. We can't all cure cancer. We can't all be fission scientists. Some of us have got to take out the trash. Some of us have got to flip burgers. Some of us have got to wash dishes. I just hope that the comments here aren't too rude to the people that are actually working those jobs, because you don't want to be working.
Work. Yeah, when people are working it and they're making it, sometimes they're working 2-3 jobs, as we've seen a lot. You know what? You're bringing money home to your family, and good for you.
Kimberly says she made $2.45 an hour at her first job. Bobby says just $45 a week. I'd love to hear what you were doing, Bobby. IMSC says Burger King was my first. Brian out at a movie theater for $4.25 an hour. Laura at Dippin' Dots talk about food service for $7 an hour. She says she doesn't want the
Do you still have
minimum
the
wage to be
hookup?
raised, though.
No.
You got a Michigander online
What do we
here.
got?
Dorothy, 35 cents an hour part-time when I was going to school at Fred Sanders in Highland Park.
Wow, 35 cents
Michigan,
my
1944.
Oh,
My
wow.
first job out of high school in 1947, $150 a month as an office stenographer at Borden's Ice Cream in Detroit, Michigan.
No kidding.
That's right. And that was working 40 hours a week. Workers today have no idea what it was like working in those. You are absolutely right.
So I've told this story on this show before. I'll tell it again, an abbreviated version. So right before I started this job, by the way, this is my 2-year on-air anniversary here.
Happy anniversary, Paul! I love you. We're so glad you're here.
Yeah, woo. So right before I took this job, what was that? Huh?
Nothing. She said nothing. She said she liked my dress.
You know, this is saved, and I can go back and watch it later.
I just posted a picture of us on Facebook. I love Paul.
You did, yeah. Some days. Right before I took this job, I was fun employed for about 6 weeks. So my last contract expired. We thought we had something lined up. It fell through. So I was looking for a little while, and I ended up taking a part-time job at the pizza place that my little brother manages back in my hometown. And I worked 4 nights a week, making pizzas and running ovens for $10 an hour under the table that summer, right before I started here. And in my 30s, it is a reminder of why I don't want to be doing those jobs anymore. It's a reminder of how lucky I am to be doing this, because I think people forget how hard those jobs are. Physically taxing work. You're bending over and sweeping under ovens. You're slaving over a hot stove all day. You're greasy and dirty and cut up and bruised by the end of it. And you're making almost nothing. And you know what? The thanks you get is the angry customers that walk in and tell you how you screwed up their order or whatever, and you just want to wring their necks, Like, the people that are out there working those jobs, God bless you, man. You are doing heroes work out there.
I like Vicky's comment. She said she worked at McDonald's and paid for nursing school.
Yeah?
That's great.
Going to school and working at McDonald's.
That's awesome. That's the way to parlay one of those jobs into something bigger and better, too. Patricia says Howard's Sundries, earning 35 cents per hour. I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not sure what that is. Someone said we need to be making Mark Curtis money. That would be amazing.
It's funny because it's true.
Dream.
I don't know what Mark Curtis makes, but I would like some of it for sure.
Right? Amanda said she worked at Food City. I think I made $6.10 an hour.
Useful
Rebecca.
providing a reminder here real quick. She said, parapros and school secretaries make about minimum wage? It's not just fast food and teenagers, people. That's a good reminder. I'm sorry.
No, there are a lot of folks that you would think that are making minimum wage. And Rebecca said $4.75 hospital nursing home kitchen worker. There's nothing like washing dishes for 8 hours, emptying dishes from a dishwasher that overheated, and finding dentures on plates when washing dishes from the nursing home to make you realize college is a must. Lesson learned, Rebecca. Yeah.
Can you imagine you're going in all the rooms. Are these your teeth?
Anyone?
I'm not sure they went.
Like, who's not able to eat carrots today? Discuss your teeth.
Juliana with an insightful comment here. She says minimum wage should be raised. Not everyone is meant to be a doctor, lawyer, etc. Everyone deserves to live and not have to feel like you need to be a rocket scientist. Joe said his first job was with the U.S. Navy for $78 a month. Man, that's a small stipend.
Yeah.
Does that include housing?
Right?
Yeah. Samantha says, you know what, she's now at Shake Shack, but I love what I do. I love Shake Shack.
Shake Shack.
And I
is
love
good.
people that are passionate about what they're
Yeah.
doing, whether it's one thing or another. Like,
Yeah.
Is there nothing better than rolling through a drive-thru at a fast food place and finding a person that's like singing your order back to you, or is just like into it?
Yes.
I want
It's
to
so
like.
happy.
That makes me so happy that
Yes.
someone is taking what is a pretty crappy job and like making it into their own and
Have
just
pride
owning
in it.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
taking
sure.
pride in your work,
Yes.
regardless. Personal comment.
And then Heather said, want more money? Apply yourself. Go to school, get the certificate, obtain work experience, and apply to a higher paying job.
I understand, and I think a lot of the people working minimum wage are probably doing just that. Nobody wants to be stuck in one of those jobs
Right.
forever. For some people, it's a necessity. For others that are working their way out, how do you expect them to live in the interim, though? That's the question here. So, like, let's say you are going through school. Let's say you're putting yourself through nursing school,
Right.
just to use that example. You're trying to pay your student loans first and foremost,
Yeah.
and you're trying to keep a roof over your head. I understand
So
that
tough.
it's not a permanent solution, but I think having a little more money in the interim to at least get by. I mean,
Yeah.
some people don't have their parents to fall back on or a wealthy spouse to fall back on. They're just out there on their own. They're roughing it. That's hard.
It is
It is
hard.
hard.
Yeah, especially if you have a family, right?
Yeah. Nina's
not just putting
concerned that
yourself on others.
raising the minimum wage makes the cost of everything else go up, so they can't live a comfortable life. Well, prices do go up. That's the way inflation works. And I think the national minimum wage was really behind for a long time. We're just starting to catch back up. Arizona is one of the lower states now, isn't it? At $11 an hour. A lot of states are up in the $13, $14, $15 range.
But the housing here is expensive, so
And
it's
it's
like
getting
it's
more
disproportionate.
expensive,
It's
yeah.
getting more. So I feel like it's a further discussion, on affordable housing.
It's a good discussion. We'll get back to it in just a
Yeah.
second. Let's take a quick break and hit our ICYMI this morning. In case you didn't watch Today in AZ, you missed this moment amongst a few others.
Instead of bats swinging at a Little League game, parents started swinging fists. The motive behind the mayhem? A disagreement with a 13-year-old umpire. This happened at a game in Colorado at an elementary school. Keep that in mind. When the young ump made a call that the parents didn't like, the gloves came off. Some parents throwing punches, others running for cover. One person even threw sucker punches. Many have had a lot to say about this. You're saying it's ridiculous. Parents continue to be the problem at their children's games. Bruce says, remember the stories about kids wanting to play various sports without keeping score? Hello, this is why. And Michael, some of my best childhood memories occurred on the Little League field, and this saddens me. Youth sports are damaged irreparably each time one of these brawls occurs. A shame on those adults on the field. And then Philip says simply, you know what? It's pretty disgusting. And really, it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes to actually identify that one parent that they're looking for in particular who really got out of control, but people were seriously hurt.
The one that started off the domino chain reaction there. You know, and the worst part about all of this is that these are learned behaviors. I remember playing in Little League, and when the parents would get all worked up about stuff, we would get worked up about stuff. We're taking their social cues. And so to watch parents go to blows over some call that a 13-year-old missed, it sends a bad message to everyone out on that diamond that day.
That's so bad. And it was over batting order for 7-year-olds.
This happens a lot. So one of my family members is guilty of this. Not fighting, but she was super upset about her little kid not playing at the time.
Yeah.
And she called me, and I was on my way over there to go watch the game, and she was furious. And I'm like, you understand this is like a little kid's game, like a 6-year-old kid's game. Like, is it really going to bother you for the rest of the day? Are you really going to be upset that you want to go say
some
something
people,
to
yes.
the coach? And I was like, why? It's just a game.
Also, you can handle that offline. You don't need to do that in public. If you need to talk to the coach about playing time, for example, you go have a one-on-one adult conversation about it. You don't scream and yell and make a scene.
We had an incident with our Little League in Houston where they were, because like we were talking about this morning, a lot of these umps are volunteer-ish positions. You know, they get paid, like the ones here, I think get paid $40 a game, which is a lot, right?
When I was that 13-year-old, 14-year-old umpire, I was making $10 a game. $10 a game.
Yeah, we had to put out, this massive warning because playoffs, were fighting with these umpires who are 14, 15 years old, berating them in front of everyone. It was horrible. And we were talking at the time about second graders who were playing. I mean, this is not like you're going to get a scholarship for the outcome of this game. It's like, guess what? Everybody gets a trophy in this league. So I don't know where this is coming from, but the parents get out of control. We see it all the time. They're crazy.
And then what are you teaching your kids? You know, because they see and then they're going to think that's how you treat a situation. That's how you handle it, and that's not how you handle it. You know, and that's why we get bullies in school.
You know, we talk about athletes being role models all the time, whether they want to be or not. And a lot of these young men who are falling into millions of dollars in their late teens and early 20s are not good role models for our youth, but they're looked up to that way. And I think this goes right back to the parents too. It's what are you establishing as a role model for yourself in the moments that you don't realize your kid is learning from you. And when they're out there playing the game that, you know, you're in the backyard throwing a ball around with dad, teaching you how to play baseball. He's learning the game that way. But then when you go out there into his field and start throwing punches at one of the other kids' dads, he's learning from you the same way. You know, and you just have to keep that in mind.
So bad.
Poor dad.
It's so bad. But unfortunately, it's not that uncommon. I mean, this is obviously being circulated because it was videotaped, the entire thing, blow by blow. But it happens all the time, more often than anything. Yeah, unfortunately.
You guys ever see anything weird at a game like that where parents just lose control of a situation?
Yeah, we've had some pretty.
I'm very. I stay very far from sporting events.
Yeah, no, we see it quite a bit in little. I haven't seen full fisticuffs, but definitely where you have to kind of talk down some of these dads that get crazy.
Yeah,
it's like they feel like they're playing. You know, they missed their opportunity in whatever year that they, you know, should have been drafted, could have been drafted, whatnot. And the intensity and the level of intensity they're putting on some of these kids and yelling at them in the car ride on the way home. It's just. It gets a little out of control. It's like it's not your childhood. You have to focus. It's the children.
I'm all for competition, but sometimes everyone gets a trophy is the right way to look at things. Like we're not gonna.
I'm super competitive. I'll tell you that much. But I'm not gonna go berate a coach or an umpire whether or not my kid gets. First of all, my kids are terrible. I'm just happy you let them on the team. So I'm just the one cheering in the background. But yeah, it's, you know, I'm competitive. I like to win, but I mean. Perspective.
They need to have like meetings or something before all these games. Like, hey, it's just a game. It's a friendly game for kids. We're trying to teach them.
Yeah, McCormick Ranch Little League, when we joined this season, it's a mandatory meeting all parents have to go to before the season starts. If you don't attend the meeting, you're not.
Kid can't play.
Kid can't play. And they have a guy who came in who's, I guess, played Little League here and then went on to maybe Single A. But they give a talk about this is a game. This is did you eat a nap?
There was a big there's a big orange puffball in my coffee. What is that?
It's from the blanket next to you.
Oh, it's
how did that get in there?
That's airborne.
Did you do that? No. Check the tape. Go back. No. I'm about to throw blows. That was gross.
Oh, Paul, you don't want to throw blows with me.
But yeah, I feel like there's an effort to at least try. Paul's got a hairball. To at least try to get these parents on the same page. These are the expectations.
Yeah.
And they did, because my husband is super loud. So he yells at some of these games, and I was like, you're not supposed to direct the children. They're like, the coaches direct the plays and direct the kids. So you can cheer on your kids, but they're trying to get you not to tell them, run, you know, try to steal second, try to do this and that. You're not supposed to be coaching them in this moment.
You're teaching them how to take directions from someone else. Because are you going to be there at their job or at school like, hey, you need to do this? No.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. Like, you have to listen to a coach. Your boss is your coach. Your GM is your coach. You have to learn to listen to authority and take constructive criticism. That's why we're putting them in these sports in the first place.
So they can
not
learn.
To win. I'm trying to teach you a way to win, but more importantly, how to lose.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up our discussion with a few more comments about minimum wage. I like what Missy had to say here. It says, I can't stand it when people feel like they know better and they say you need to go to school, etc. What if you have a learning disability? What if you have something else that hinders you? What if you have to work and pay for school and you're working 57 hours a week? Not everyone is in a position in which they can just go out and better themselves at every moment of their day. Sometimes you just got to work a job to pay the bills. I completely agree with you. I think that's a great point. There are so many comments. I really appreciate the viewer feedback here, and you guys have been mostly tame. I appreciate that too. I like it when I don't have to worry about not reading a comment here or there because it's a little out of line. Graham says, I coached Little League. You have to set expectations up front with parents. I had to call the police on one parent for showing up inebriated and yelling. Some parents also have a hard time handing over authority. I think that's a very good point, Graham. It always starts with somebody who takes it too seriously. Always. It always starts with somebody who kind of loses sight of what this is really about. And a lot of times the parents get into it with parents on the other team. So I remember that. I played 10 years of Little League ball, and I remember there was, not bragging or anything, I was the fat kid. I got to play catcher because I was the biggest backstop. But I remember there were multiple times when like a parent thought that the other team was trying too hard, like stealing second every time when you didn't have to, just to exploit the fact that the catcher couldn't throw down to second base. And so then that would spark, we're like, you're already winning by 10, like what are you, you're rubbing it in. And so then it's like a bad sportsmanship thing, and then the umpire makes a call that one of them doesn't like, and then all of a sudden it's just
They're getting
like,
into it. Yeah. But even with the women's soccer team, remember, I can't remember who they were playing, but we
2 games
were
ago,
so far
13-0.
ahead.
Yeah.
And they were getting, fans were getting upset that the U.S. women's team was celebrating in the way that they were, and it's like,
You're in the World Cup,
You're in
first
the
of all.
World Cup. You're supposed to be celebrating if you're killing it. It's okay.
Well, even fans, when you go to a baseball game or a football game, they're fighting each other over a game. They're not getting paid. They're not the player.
You're
The
not
players aren't
in
even
the
upset.
game.
Yeah. And then the fans end up fighting each other. I never get that. I'm like, why are you guys fighting each other? Like, makes no sense.
I think the moral of the story here is maybe just care a little less.
Yeah.
If you're here, just bring it down to like here.
Just enjoy the game.
Yes.
Have fun. Don't lose sight of what it's really about.
Grab a beer.
Enjoy the sport.
Not too many beers, because that's when you start fighting.
There you go. Thanks.
But that's what
Good
they
advice.
did say, is that for the kids, it becomes not enjoyable when the parents behave that way, and that's what it comes down to. It's not fun for the kids when you're acting like an idiot.
I hope this show was fun for you, despite the fact that we're all kind of idiots in our own special way. We'll be back at 7:30 tomorrow for a Friday edition of the After Show, which is always especially unhinged. So stick around for that. Be good people. Don't punch anyone.
Please.